Hi everyone, and welcome back to Project No Buy. In today's video, I'm going to be going through some of the things I purchased during my first no buy attempt in 2024, maybe even January of this year, and go through the justifications that I had for these purchases, why I don't really agree with them, and why I would not use the same justifications again today. So basically why I wanted these things, or thought that I did, and how I would be able to get around those same kind of feelings and impetuses, if anything, came up in the presence of things that I wanted to buy but won't. And I will say that part of the reason that I can sit here and do this right now is because I have had some turning points or moments of additional conviction brought on by the book I keep mentioning, Braiding Sweetgrass, as well as starting again. I read these books before, but I have consumed and The Day the World Stopped Shopping. And I think I also had The Story of Stuff. I'm not sure if I still have that one, but these books are kind of on my to be reread list and possibly let go of after this iteration, and speaking about them on here, about how they kind of reshaped my experience. The thing is, I did read those prior to my no-buy attempts and still was able to fail my no-buy. And so, you know, it's multiple pieces of the puzzle had to come into place to kind of arrive at this point of being able to see through a lot of my prior justifications. Now, I will say that there are some purchases that were made during the no-buy that are in many ways good purchases, or purchases that continue to serve me and would have probably been made after the no-buy period was over regardless. And it's maybe too soon to say for some of those, because there are some experiences that I've had regarding things that I've wanted to buy but didn't in March that have made me see some light as far as what might have happened if I had not purchased those things. And so I'll get into those maybe at the end of this video, and certainly in the March recap. But let's start with some of the things that I bought in the year 2024. So I had some no-buy exceptions that were predetermined in my 2024 no-buy. And some of the first things that I purchased that year were on those exceptions lists. So I'm talking about a couple of workout jackets by a certain brand. And I put these on my exceptions list. I thought I might go into the store with my husband for Mother's Day and make that kind of an occasion, which shopping for Mother's Day is not something I want to be doing right now in this year. That's not an occasional exception. But it's, you know, my priorities have totally changed, and that's not something that sounds fun to me anymore. But I also just don't need or want things in the same way anymore. And these jackets, these workout jackets, are a prime example of that. I have not worn these jackets very much at all, once or twice each, perhaps, in the time since I acquired them, which is a surefire sign that I didn't actually need the jackets, right? I could have lived without them. I could have used what I had instead. They're for working out, right? They're exercise wear, and I have not been able to instill the exercise habit. Having the clothes didn't make it any easier. Right? Let me say that again. Having the gear, having the equipment, having the things to buy for the hobby or activity or habit that I wanted to instill didn't make the habit happen. It didn't make me exercise. Even though it's easy to tell yourself in the time, in the frame where you're wanting to buy the thing, oh, if I buy this, I'll do it. That's not how it works. I am living proof of that by the fact that I have 2 workout jackets in my drawer that I purchased during a no-buy year on an exception because I thought, oh, it's for working out. I'm going to work out and therefore I need these. It's a health habit. And it didn't work. I bought the jackets, I bought them secondhand, so they weren't full retail, and, you know, they were more sustainable in my mind because they weren't purchased from the retailer. But did I exercise? No. Did I use the jackets? Did I even wear them? Not even for exercise? No. And so, was that a good purchase? No. I didn't need them. I clearly didn't even want them beyond purchasing them, because I could have worn them just for fun, you know, just for style, but they weren't something that I reached for over the other options that I currently have. Am I going to keep them and try to use them? And, you know, are they still useful functional objects? Yes, right? They still are functional. They will still serve a purpose. If I actually go run outside more, they will be what I choose to wear. And so I will keep them, but I didn't need to buy them when I did. I should have waited until having the habit already, using the things that I have, and probably purchasing one at a time rather than getting two, and not giving into the FOMO of the great deal that I was seeing on the Mercari resale app, and the fact that I was also kind of reselling, and so I was kind of able to revolving door rotate them, right? Sell something and buy something, and kind of not feel the impact on my budget. But in terms of the shopping habit, in terms of being in the realms of buying things, it was not something that needed to happen. There's a couple of other instances of thrifted things. So there was a red tank top that I purchased on the resale app because they sent me a coupon, right? Like a $5 off coupon. And so the actual use value of this red tank top is actually pretty high because it has become one of my rotating undershirts. And I currently have about 5 of these tank tops that I will sometimes wear in the place of an undergarment because that's just more comfortable for being at home for me. And so this does actually get worn and washed on a pretty much weekly basis. And so it turned into what's a good purchase. But the impetus for purchasing was not a good one. And it is something that if I didn't have it, I would just rotate through what I actually have and it would have been fine. And so was it something I should have bought during my no-buy year? No. Was it something that I'm going to fall into again? No, I will not be. Okay, so the resale thing was a big issue for me for a while, but I've removed myself from it as far as not having the app anymore. So I don't get these notifications. I've unsubscribed from the email kind of offers or coupons like this. And I'm determined. I have about 15 items left up on the resale. I prefer to put these items direct into the hands of somebody that wants them. And I've been kind of lowering the prices radically. And I am getting to the point where it's becoming clear that some of these things just aren't going to move on the Mercari resale app. And I can give them kind of one last ditch effort for the items that are in really good condition through using a service like ThredUp, which is kind of like consignment, but you just send in a package of goods. And I hope they donate what they can't sell. And I am curious about whether their methods of donation are more effective than what I have available to me. Like if I take it to my local Goodwill or Big Brother, Big Sister bin or whatever it is, collection bins, is it more likely to be used if I do it that way than send it into ThredUp and if it doesn't get accepted? I don't know. But it's not about getting money in return or kind of recouping any costs at this point. It's about getting these things into the hands of somebody who will actively use them and want them and value them. So anyway, tangent there. I purchased a red tank top, and while I use it, it was not something I needed to purchase, and I purchased it because of the coupon, which is never a good reason to make a purchase. Like shopping because something is on sale or because you have an offer is a really, really bad reason to shop. And I might make a dedicated video on this because, again, it's something that we hear a lot, right? Don't buy because it's on sale. But unless you have that moment where you fully kind of understand and contextualize it, like what it means to you, it's kind of something that's so normalized, right? Shopping sales, shopping to get a better deal, looking for coupons. Like I think all of that is so normalized for people who are concerned about saving money or getting the best value that it can be really hard to separate shopping because it's on sale and the idea of being financially smart and buying something, but actually kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit by maybe acquiring too many backups because you're trying to save a few dollars, or buying things that are maybe not ideal because this version was on sale and this one wasn't. So anyway, we'll maybe revisit that another day. Okay, the next thing I have on this list in 2024 were some of the clothing purchases. And I think this was in my first video of failing, my April failures. So I bought a vest, a plaid vest. I bought 2 clothing articles from a store where I was shopping for one of my kids online. So I bought a sweatshirt and a graphic t-shirt and some jeans. And so these were all clothing pieces. So 3 out of these 4 clothing pieces have become new kind of staples for me. Or let's be realistic, I guess 2 out of 4. So I didn't need another graphic t-shirt. So that was definitely a poor purchase decision, just on the basis that acquiring one more graphic t-shirt meant that I used what I had less. And it doesn't functionally serve any other purpose, right? It has a different picture on it, sure. But does it actually fulfill different needs? No. It's the same level of casual as all of my other graphic t-shirts, the different color of the graphic doesn't make it any different as far as what vibe it gives in my wardrobe. And it was therefore not a purchase that made any impact in my wardrobe and just served to provide another option for a category where I already have a lot, right? Tops, specifically t-shirts and tank tops, are something that I have a lot of already. Tank tops are a little bit different because not all of them are comfortable to wear as undershirts. And so in the case of the undershirt tank top, the rotation was less of a problem than in the graphic tee department, where now I have too many and I don't remember the last time I wore some of them because I have a large collection. So definitely an unwise purchase. The sweatshirt is hard to be mad about because I do wear it very often and it is my favorite crew neck sweatshirt. I don't have a ton of crew neck sweatshirts, but it is my favorite one. It is the one that I will wear to work. It is the one that I want to keep nice, and it is the one with the most comfortable fabric. And so during a non-no-buy year, that would be what I would consider a reasonable purchase in terms of something that gets used frequently and something that provided something that was arguably necessary. You know, new clothes are not necessary if you already have clothes that work, but arguably enhancing, I guess, if not necessary, to my wardrobe situation. And so that would have been something that might have been purchased outside of the parameters of a no-buy, you know, like if it was still there after my no-buy year attempt, which ended up being extended because as you can see, I didn't actually do a no-buy. It didn't work that first time. But that's the kind of thing that would have made maybe a good Christmas gift, for example, if it was in the realms of a no-buy and if I was approaching it with a wish list and other people giving me gifts, you know, select few items. We'll get into this later because I think how I approach holidays this year might be more in line with kind of what's normal and what's kind of long-term sustainable. And it might involve things like this, making it onto a wish list. But the key here is to know, right? Like I should not be putting things like the graphic t-shirt on the wish list because it would still result in all the same problems that I have because I bought it, you know, kind of less consciously without thinking about the impact of more graphic tees, and then also the lack of impact on the functionality in my wardrobe, if that makes sense. So those, you know, that's the kind of top purchases. I bought the plaid vest, highly influenced. I was still on short form social media at this time at the beginning of last year because I was posting. I was kind of doing no-buy updates on TikTok, trying to do the daily accountability, kind of trying to build, not build a community there, but be a part of a community there, right? Like I didn't really have any illusions that I would be somebody that people wanted to follow on any platform really. Like I've been surprised by what's happened here on YouTube, but I was just trying to be a part of a community, find solidarity in people on there, but it was kind of backfiring in a big way, right? Like because some of what I posted was fashion related, it was like enjoying what I have, I would see these posts from other people, and some of these creators had great style, right? Like a lot of these creators had really that style that I wanted to emulate, in other words. And so if they were talking about a specific brand or this kind of new product that I didn't have, and this vest is something unlike the graphic tee that I have a lot of and kind of diluted my options, I have nothing like this vest. And those of you who have been here a long time have already seen it, right? It's plaid, it's got a tie in the front. And it's something that I honestly didn't need. And if I didn't have it, I wouldn't wear anything like that, right? I wouldn't miss it. I wouldn't feel the absence of the plaid tie vest in my wardrobe. Now that I have it, I do like it, and there are functional uses for it, and there are kind of reasons to keep it. There's a lot of things that are in this category of now that I have it, I might as well use it. And that's not a category of things that I want to collect a lot of, right? Maybe I should make a video about this actually, like the things that I use because I have and not because I would buy them again. I don't know. It doesn't sound the most catchy, but I don't want to accumulate more things that are in this category. I don't want to have a lot of things in this category at the end of the day, right? Like at the end of my, not that the wardrobe has an ending point or collections of things, you know, it's not like there's a destination for most of these things in our lives, but I don't want to have a lot of things that I use because I have them and therefore have kept them or think I should use them, or it's wasteful, more wasteful to not use it than it is to use it up. You know, it applies to makeup categories too, like makeup products, project pans. In a lot of cases, it's wasteful because the only recourse you have is to throw the product out and try to recycle the packaging. And so you've just kind of poured that product down the drain or scraped it out or whatever, you know, like you haven't used it. And so the better option is to continue using it even if you don't love the product. And it's not the greatest feeling. It's not something I love doing. And I don't want to have more of those kinds of things in any category of my life. And so the vest represents one of those that was purchased because I was influenced, and I really, really should have waited. I felt the FOMO because it was a popular brand, and it was a case of, oh, it's probably going to sell out. Like, I don't feel like I can wait. And I don't have that same mentality anymore. I do feel much more the fact that there's options everywhere. There's always another option. If it's not the plaid vest, there will be another fashion clothing item that I see and I'm attracted to and can contemplate buying when I'm in the position to do that in a reasonable way. There's not going to be a desert of possible new things, possible new styles, possible kind of new avenues of exploration, right? I'm not going into a desert of that, but I'm just putting myself on the sidelines for a temporary period of time by doing a no-buy year. And again, I'm doing this because I want to prove to myself that I can, but I'm also making the space for myself to learn and grow by not focusing on things to buy or things to not buy for the most part, right? I know part of my no-buy year has been focusing on things to not buy, but in the reality of the situation, it's less of my time that's spent focusing on stuff because I'm not engaging in buying it. And so that's, I guess, the goal of a no-buy challenge in general, right, is to eventually reach this point. And, you know, I'm here continuing to talk about it online because there are still kind of ways that it's helpful for me to go through things that I used to do, you know, mentalities I used to have. That's kind of what I'm doing right now. And there may be times in the future, or, you know, who knows when it'll strike again, that I might become kind of immersed in the desire to acquire a specific thing. But in terms of being able to look back on these justifications I used to use, I do feel like I have many more tools now to kind of fight the justification side here. You know, the devil on the shoulder is telling me all these things, and I feel like the angel is growing, right? I've talked about this angel before, right? The no-buy angel is becoming stronger, becoming more kind of in tune with what I actually want, what my brain is actually kind of processing, and is speaking the language that I understand, and it's becoming less of a battle and more of a way of life, I guess. You know, like, I'm not fighting, you know, angel and devil aren't here duking it out, but the angel is kind of taking me by the hand and we're going on a pleasant stroll, and the devil might come the other way and we'll say hello and goodbye. And that's kind of it right now. Anyway, let's continue down the list, lest we get into more kind of potentially bad metaphors. I have a hair clip. I have some beauty products on here. Again, the hair clip was not something I needed. I had other hair clips. The specific justification here was that this particular one was a version of a metal one that I have. The metal one was too heavy. The plastic one will be more comfortable to wear. Is that true? Yes. Have I worn it enough to justify the purchase? No, because I have scrunchies, and oftentimes the scrunchie or hair tie is more accessible. It's in my bag, it's on my wrist, and the hair clip is on my nightstand or on the counter, right? So, like, it's not something that I really needed. It's certainly not something I should have done as far as buying during a time of challenge of not buying things, you know, during the no buy. I should not have let that in. It's not something on the scale of things that is a huge regret, because I could see that being a reasonable purchase as far as something functional, something I do use regularly, but it's definitely not something I needed. And I am not trying to become a radical minimalist or somebody who practices not buying anything ever. However, in terms of if I were to see that now and want a slightly better version of something I already have, I am much less likely to fall for that trap, because chances are, unless I'm wearing that first version every single day, right, and having another option would still result in a lot of use for both things, I probably don't need another option, right? The search for the perfect one is another topic I think I just recently talked about on this channel, and I would consider this kind of adjacent to that, right? I was searching for a better version of this hair clip and kind of fell into that trap that I would not need to fall into again today. Or I recognize the fallacy of it. You know, there's no such thing as the perfect one. Even the one that I bought could be better, right? It could be a nicer color. It could be a little more, it could have more grip. You know, like, there are aspects of that I could look for in terms of upgrading as well. I could be out looking for hair clips today with those, you know, specific features, a better color and stronger grip or whatever. But it would be endless, right? I would get that one and there'd be something that's not optimal about it, and then there would be the search for the next perfect one. And so I don't want to do that anymore. The beauty products are things that I did actually use up, so they're kind of more consumables, not much to say there. The books start to show up on this list, and I think I kind of summarized why I'm okay with not buying books anymore in the dedicated video on books. So I'm just going to leave that one up here, lest this particular video get too long. I bought the phone jail. Now, this is kind of a sore point because do I use that thing anymore? No. And am I reminded how stupid of a purchase that was? Yes. So I purchased this little plastic box on Mercari, again, the resale app. And the premise of it is that you can put something in it and set a timer and lock it. So for me, it was for my phone. It was to break up with screen time, break up with being on my phone all the time. And I did use it in a couple of YouTube videos. That does not make it a business expense. This is not a job for me per se, even if it does incur kind of incidental income. But I bought this stupid piece of plastic and I still have it. It's at the top of the pantry and I don't use it. And could I have made a substitute for having this piece of plastic instead of designating this phone jail system? Did I really need it to be locked up in order to not be on my phone? Did I really not have the willpower to just leave my phone in a drawer upstairs and not come and get it? I don't know if I have the answer to that question in terms of I can't really know what would have happened on those days that I locked up my phone. But the fact that I never use that thing now, I don't have designated phone lockup periods. Maybe I should. Maybe that's the answer to this here. Maybe I just need to make a point to use the tool that I have now rather than feel stupid about having bought it and not actually using it. But the point is, I have not actually used it. And so it's kind of like the running jackets, right? I realize now that I fall into this trap a lot, and I've fallen into it historically as well. I have memories of my dad saying something similar where I think it was about getting a swim pass over the summer. Instead of paying each time I went to the pool over the summer because my physical therapist, I had scoliosis, and so they were recommending I take up swimming. And so instead of going and paying day by day, we bought a pass, and I only ended up going twice. And so I should have just paid the days that I went, and, I didn't hear the end of that from my dad. He still brings it up, and I'm sure there are other things in terms of, that wasn't a physical purchase, but it was just a mentality, right? Of like, oh, if I buy the pass, then I'll have to go, right? And it just didn't really work like that. And for me, things generally don't work like that. It might work like that better for other people, but clearly not for me. Okay, there was a Halloween costume, and, I don't really want to focus too much on this because it's kind of one of those occasion wear items that I do intend to wear this year rather, for Halloweens to come. It is something I can wear more casually as well. It's not something I would repurchase, I guess, because I could make do without it for sure. And I feel kind of ickier about the fact that I now have these kind of costume items sitting in my closet, if that makes sense. And again, I'm not advocating that you should feel icky about occasion wear, or that if you do have a Halloween costume like sitting around for that yearly occasion, then it's a bad thing. Like, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I have now reached a point from then to now that I would not make the same decision again today. I would see that as something that would cost me a little bit, like I was talking about in the video of, would you keep it if you can never declutter it, right? The cost of something is not just the purchase of the item, but you then have to store it, maintain it, clean it, have it, know that it's there. And that's just something that weighs on me more after some more developments, I guess, during my no-buy challenge period, right? The reflection, the reading, and the realizations. So I would not remake that purchase, although I will continue to use the items. My alternative would just be to make do with something that I already have, right? There are costumes I can do just with the clothing that I have that's not specifically geared to that purpose. I was intending for this to be a performance costume as well, for like pop cover background work, but it's another scenario where I had not started the work yet and still have not started that work. And so I should have waited. I should have not purchased it preemptively, just like so many other things on this list already. And I should have waited until the needs arose from the situations, because clearly, I have clothes, I have things I could wear to any of these occasions, whether it's Halloween or performing in that capacity. Was it fun to wear that particular costume on Halloween? Yes. Am I going to wear it again and not feel bad about repeating it? Also yes. Am I still going to hopefully wear it for performances Yeah, hopefully, but we'll see. It remains to be seen. All of that said, I still reaffirm that I would not have made that purchase again and will not make a similar purchase going forward. And I don't know that I would call it a regret. You know, I wouldn't necessarily go all the way there, but it is definitely approaching a purchase regret. Okay, I think at this point we get to a bunch of the Christmas gifts. So I think there was some sheet music over the summer, which some of that is a regret because I haven't yet used it. Again, it's kind of similar to everything I've talked about thus far, right? Like, it's a case of buying something before I actually had the genuine need for it come up or the genuine time to do the activity. It's like when I bought a bunch of crochet kits, not during my no-buy year, but before, and I still have only completed one of the crochet things. I actually have it right here, but I have a couple more of these that I just still haven't found the time to do, despite being pleased. I shared this last year. I completed this. I think he made an appearance in one of my table decluttering videos, but I was really pleased after making that thing and still kind of didn't make the time or didn't find the time to make the other ones. It's just kind of challenging at the stage of life where I'm currently in. And there are other things I'd rather be doing if I have spare time. Okay, so now we're kind of into that Christmas gift territory of I mean, I want to say extreme overconsumption because that's what it kind of feels like right now. So if you want to see the full details, you can go see the video of everything I did buy in the year 2024. But essentially there was several clothing items, several makeup items. A lot of the makeup items are actually regrets. I've already talked about them. I think I kind of broke that down in the couple of videos I did earlier in March about makeup, you know, reacting to things I used to be influenced by and also realizing that if I'm not going to fully use up a piece of makeup, then I really shouldn't be buying it. And I have to have the use case, right? Use data to know that I will be able to use these things up and that I can benefit from another option to rotate through. And so again, it's kind of the same as all these other categories of justifying these things because I thought I would use them or I thought it would be fun to have another option, or honestly, I'm not exactly sure what I was thinking in some of these cases. I know for the eyeshadow, I was kind of struggling because the ones that I had weren't really serving the purposes that I was looking for. And I also kind of had this mentality of maybe I can replace the options that I have with one nicer option, one option that actually does what I want. And instead of kind of focusing on one, I ended up acquiring 3 different eyeshadow palette options. And those are the 3 that I currently have. And so it's not that it was all bad, but I can't even honestly say that I regret or would return any of the eyeshadows I have if I got the opportunity. So it's not to say that they're not things I regret buying, but if I was trying to stay within the realms of integrity, if I was trying to keep integrity for my no-buy year, there are definitely things I could have waited on. I could have used what I had for the remainder of the year and not given that time and focus on looking for a better option. I think maybe it fell into that category again of looking for the perfect one or a better option or something that would fulfill my needs more and eliminate the frustrations I was experiencing with the products that I currently had. But again, I've learned that minor frustrations are anywhere you look for them. They're everywhere. Nothing is perfect. And so there will always be a reason to replace something if you're looking for that reason. And so I'm much more immune to that now, I think, and much more okay with an average product, if that makes sense, right? Like if something does the job, even if it doesn't do the job well, do I really need the best version of something when an okay version will do? And there are some things that are reasonable in terms of getting the best version, in my opinion. There are other things that once you have the best version, you know, you can continue to use that up and repurchase the best version, right? Like I'm not saying it's bad to have nice things in general, but the search for the nicest thing, I think, is the problem and a problem that I was suffering through still in my no-buy year, in the first iteration of that challenge. There were some other clothing purchases, like the pants that I purchased to replace a couple of pairs of pants that were too small. And again, it's similar to the other clothing that I mentioned earlier, where I do actually wear them very, very often, and they have become kind of more core pieces of my wardrobe. And I actually think that in this case, even if I didn't know it at the time, I was perhaps exercising reasonable replacements in terms of articles of clothing that I used to wear a lot, right? The 2 pairs of pants that got too small were things that I used to wear frequently. And because of that, even though I didn't do one-for-one replacements, it was kind of more of a conscious purchase that I was doing not consciously, if that makes sense. Like, the shopping mentality was still kind of there. And so it's not exactly the same as the replacement that happened this month, where I did do a 1-for-1 replacement of my favorite pair of black pants that got too small as well. And for those of you out there doing a no-buy challenge, I still don't advocate kind of punishing yourself by not updating the size of things that you currently use because you're on a no-buy challenge, right? Like, I think that's within the realms of having things that you need. It is worth considering whether you actually need as many as you have of that category, or whether you could live without, or, live with one less pair of pants, for example. And, arguably I'm still not perfect in that category, because do I technically have pants that I could wear to work? Yes. Am I going to feel it if I have 2 pairs instead of 3 pairs? Also, yes. I'm going to feel like I have kind of not quite enough pairs of pants. There are different levels of show formalities that we do. I typically wear my favorite ones for the evening, more formal concerts. And one of the pairs is markedly more casual. There are reasons, right? And thinking through these reasons, I think, is something that I didn't do in the last year's iteration of replacing pants with a larger size. And so while it turned out well, it was a happy ending, but it wasn't a consciously made happy ending. It wasn't a case of, I have a proof of concept for both of these pairs of pants. I kind of had proof for one, right? I kind of bought the same pants in a different color in one of the styles, and that worked well. But in the other pair of pants, I definitely didn't have proof of concept, and it was a case of kind of falling for wanting to expand in style or be fashionable in a way, right? Like, not with trends, not with anything kind of exterior influenced, but there was an element of wanting to expand my own style that I was playing into that I am kind of on a break from now, right? In this iteration of Project No Buy, in this no buy year, I can observe that from the outside and realize that I don't have to enter that club right now. The door will still be open in a year when I'm not on a no-buy challenge, and I will also have a cooler head at that point, right? Do I want to enter the doors of whatever style is of the moment, right? Do I want to join that club, or am I okay kind of interacting with it in my own way, my own language? And again, I have a video coming on the language of fashion, fashion literacy, style, etc., kind of delving deeper into that. So I will leave more of that conversation for the future in that video. And again, I think the purchases I made in January, it was mostly makeup and clothing were the big categories, clothing being the biggest. There are kind of hits and misses even in that small collection of things that I purchased. I actually think all the clothing is kind of a hit, and the secondhand shoes that I purchased were maybe the most dubious because I couldn't try them on, couldn't return them, and they proved to be a little more uncomfortable than I thought. Will I continue to wear them because I have them? Yes. Will I be able to abstain from making that same mistake in the future? Also yes. Again, for reasons I've already mentioned, getting rid of the resale app, getting rid of that kind of realm of justification of resale, right? Saying that that's more sustainable, that's kind of an acceptable way to continue to engage with fashion and do it in a sustainable way, doing things, keeping them from landfill, like all these things that I told myself and have removed myself from telling myself, have stopped, that kind of justification pathway, if that makes sense. So there's that. And then there's also my priority for being able to try in person before I buy. There's also my priority for not diluting the options that I have. Shoes is a category that I have a lot of already. It's to the point that people at work notice and then they say I must have a large shoe collection. And, whatever a large shoe collection is subjective. I do have about 30 pairs of shoes, which is a lot. And I think it's more now, where I'm sitting today, than I thought it was last year, right? When I did my wardrobe declutter and try on last year and determined that I had about 30 pairs of shoes, I actually thought, oh, that's not so bad, right? That's not 50 pairs, it's not 100 pairs, it's 30. Like, it seems like a reasonable number, one for every day of a month kind of thing. Now, where I'm at today, I feel the needs of shoes are much lower, right? Aside from the 3 or 4 pairs that I have in black for exclusively for work, 26 pairs of shoes. Aside from the work shoes, I actually don't see as much appeal in having a large shoe collection to kind of change shoe options, right? Like, I don't necessarily want to have 5 pairs of sneakers when one would do, or 4 different pairs of boots when maybe 2 different styles would cover all of my bases. Like, it would provide me with enough options, but not too many options, right? And I would have maybe a more iconic shoe style if I had a smaller collection. And again, because I have them, I will use them. And because shoes wear out, I don't want to get rid of these things and then have to repurchase, or the point is I won't be repurchasing actually. And because they wear out, what I foresee happening is that I'll eventually wear some of these shoes out and then kind of decrease my collection that way. Shoes in general, you know, some of them can be resold, but at the same time, things like sneakers are something that don't necessarily have a high resale value. And if I still get joy out of wearing them, you know, it's kind of like, is it worth reselling or putting them away just to have a smaller collection arbitrarily, you know? And, you know, part of my last clothing update, I think, was that I'm done decluttering in a way. You know, like I'm done kind of obsessing over whether I should keep something or not. I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to try to use it up. And I'm focusing on not bringing in anything new, not diluting my collection further. And just because I think having 30 pairs of shoes right now is a huge shoe collection doesn't mean I'm in a rush to make the number go down just so that I don't have 30 pairs of shoes. At least right now. You know, I might have growing discomfort with the overconsumption that it signals to have 30 pairs of shoes. But for right now, I'm treating that with a lighter touch and not kind of rushing to a finish line of only having 10 pairs of shoes and therefore being within the realms of reasonable as far as what a normal person has in terms of pairs of shoes. So that's kind of a little bit of a tangent rant. I would love to know your thoughts on it though, by the way. Like, that's something in particular. Talking to more people, I think, will kind of widen perspectives here and possibly recalibrate where your own perspectives are. And I guess in a way, I'm kind of revealing my cards, showing my cards to you now by telling you that now I'm a person who thinks 30 pairs of shoes is a lot. And where I was before, I was less in that realm, right? Like maybe when it approached 50, that was too many pairs, but now 30 pairs is too much. And so I'm kind of showing you my value cards as far as the kind of influence that I will exert on people around me, because I will not be normalizing 50 pairs of shoes anymore. I will not be, hopefully, normalizing 30 pairs of shoes anymore. And, you know, maybe I am convincing myself that it would be a good thing to do to kind of mindfully decrease my shoe collection. But again, now is not the time for various reasons. So for now, I'm taking a break on decluttering and just focusing on not acquiring any new things. And I guess truly leaning into the fact that the best way to not regret anything that you buy is to not buy anything, right? Like, goes almost without saying. Anyway, I will wrap up this video here. I think later this month I will also be going through all of the TikToks I saved prior to my no-buy year, which is kind of going to be a similar process, right? Not the things that I bought and justified and regret necessarily, but things that I justified wanting through saving these images. Stay tuned for that. It might look a little bit different. I'm also curious about how it's going to feel to make. So I will see you in the next one and say bye for now.